Another thing that I heard is that there is realization, but there is also the manifestation of our realization and being able to live it. And that's what I loved about your work already, for many, many years, because I always felt that there are two kinds of spiritual paths. One is like the fast food, what I call fast food spirituality. Like that's like, give me a weekend workshop to get enlightened, or give me a weekend workshop that fixes my issues, or it's an invitation into a real path, and that path is much more committed. It has a much longer breath. And it has also a lot of power because of that. It's it doesn't stay on the surface. It brings like a lot of depth. And ever since I heard the first time about your work and I felt your work, I felt, yes, this is like what I would call like a path. It's deep. It needs commitment. It needs a longer breath, and it needs to, what you said, like embody the authenticity of who we are as our walking. And that's beautiful. So maybe we can talk a little bit about, the capitalistic danger of staying on the surface, or and trying to experience many things in order to get a lot of fast shots of excitement, or to have the power to deepen a path. And I think that's also part of healing the gap between the mind and the body, is consistency and is commitment to a journey and to like a deep inquiry.
Thomas, you bring in something very important, which I have been contemplating for lately a few years, because that's a new sort of development in spirituality and many spiritual circles, especially among young people, which is they want instant enlightenment, because everything is faster. Your phone is always getting faster and faster, and you want only get the faster phone. So you think the same thing with your teacher. You crank it up fast. And it is a tendency that I notice that, and I think many will learn it at some point, but hopefully they could learn it soon enough, which is that spirituality is not an experience you have. It is a development and maturation of our soul, of our consciousness, of our being, to become more real, more authentic, and mature in the sense that it recognizes the truth, the value of truth, and the value of heart, and the value of intelligence, all of that. And it cannot be done with one experience, cannot be done with one workshop. And it's appreciating what life is like, that life is an evolution. It's a learning, and it's a development. In some sense, it's a process of, at some point when we are into it, is a process of ripening. We become a ripened human being. A ripened human being is moving from being at the beginning like roots and a tree and a trunk that's hard and leaves and all that, to having fruits that are then first green, then they become beautiful and ripe, and so ripe they could almost drop, and very juicy. And that is more the real process of how a human being is becoming a real human being. And that takes time. It takes commitment, dedication, focus, and following a particular teaching, a particular practice. You can't just sample things. The spirituality is not a smorgasbord, which many people want to try this, try that. That's what everybody does. At the beginning, you need to sample things. At some point, you need to settle on something. Otherwise, you'll be wasting your time, you see. Because you'll be wasting your time, and before you know it, you're about to die. You haven't gotten deep, and to get deep, you really need the dedication, the focused dedication, and a particular practice, particular teaching. whatever it is, and find a teacher you trust, you love, and a teaching that resonates, and to really follow it to its depth, because the teaching, any real teaching, has a great deal of knowledge and understanding and experience and wisdom, and it's not just one experience, although many of the texts are written, oh, you could arrive at the ultimate, the absolute, and that's it. But if you read the biographies of those people, you see they've gone through all kinds of things, and they continue to go through all kinds of things. So for me, enlightenment is not the end; it's the beginning of life. And things can evolve from there. And so that's one thing that many people really need to learn. And I don't know how people are going to learn it. They're not going to get it from what I'm saying. Words don't do it. They have to be clobbered over and over again and get disappointed over and over again until finally, hopefully, they'll wake up. Well, I better focus on here. And I hope our thing like what we're doing now can help some people, recognize that it's different from what I see happening most of the time. That the time-honored way, tried and true for millennia, is the commitment to a path or a teacher, and can take decades to bear real fruit. Because people hear a story that this person got awakened, then something hit their head and they get awakened. That is, that too happens, but that's rare. But even in the Zen context, for instance, when somebody hears something and they get awakened, they've been meditating maybe for 2-3 decades. It's not, it didn't happen in out of context, So although if you want to risk it and say it will happen to me just by going to a workshop, well, you could do that. But really, the way that we have known really works as a commitment to a practice, to a path. And that requires both belly, mind, and heart, all of them together, I think, in harmony. We need to work together. And, Thomas, you work with groups and trauma, and you obviously sort of develop this interesting way, because trauma is a very widespread in the culture, and the culture now is traumatized further. It looks like we have a traumatized planet at the present time. So your work will be very appropriate. Maybe you should do a global trauma teaching, because many people either frustrated or afraid or got sick or hate somebody, or they're hated by somebody, or this amazing thing. And that is really disintegrating for the human spirit. And I hope we come through it in at least some kind of good way.
Yeah, that's right. It's very prevalent, or pandemic, one could say. And yeah, but I love what you said, is like also, and I have so much yes to many things you said right now, so maybe I will not repeat it. I will just add something that came up, is also the feeling of like committing to a path is also committing to care, that we care for one another, and we're not just jumping here and there, and we're staying anonymous. So I think that there is a community that also cares, and there's a teaching or a teacher, or like there's a whole environment of care.
Yeah.
Because I think in the moments when it's really hard, where we by ourselves might turn away from the practice or turn away from the divine, that there is an environment that helps us through the care and the love. And now we are back to the heart. Like there's a I think that care is important in certain situations where it might feel dark on the journey for someone. There's support, and there's an environment of love and care. And I think that's also an element of the path, and that we commit and we also give something, because it's also like a community of practice, like I'm sure that's in your community the same, is that we all also give something. It's not just what do I get, it's also what do I give. And that that me giving something into the community and me receiving something is part of the learning and the maturation that you spoke about when we mature into our heart quality.
Yeah. So
And I think,
you
go
talk
ahead.
about the importance of a spiritual community, not just solo practice, which I agree with you, because that's what I do. And when a group of like-hearted, like-minded people who are practicing together the same way, and they know each other in time, there develops some kind of a field between them that is field that feeds them, and they feed it and they develop it by their own practice. Each one feeds the field by interacting with each other and caring for each other. That's true. And that being open and time and having a community like that, it makes it easier to be open and trusting, because most people are scared to open because they don't trust most of the world, and most of the world sometimes is not trustworthy. So if you are a community, that everybody cares to know the truth, care to be real. There is then the mutual respect and the trust, and that kind of connectivity can allow the heart to appear a certain way, can allow a certain manifestation of the heart that feels like being held by a caring hand, like being held by a softness and a delicacy, a nourishing softness that permeates the whole field, that everybody feels bathed in and connected through. And that is actually, I've seen it as a palpable thing that happens even on Zoom. Amazingly, it can happen. If a group really know each other, they're all there, they're all really present, they're not busy with their cell phone, all that. It really can happen that there is a palpable field of presence. But it is usually the palpable field of presence that develops is a loving presence, which is really always beautiful to see. But it's also very useful. Like people feel they have a place where they go, where they feel safe. They feel it can be as open as possible. All their difficulties, they don't have to hide anything. And there's some more courage as a result, and more openness that can develop for the whole field. The whole field can develop too, not just individuals. So a group can develop and become more mature. And so the one thing, to bring back to the question of commitment is that really it requires maturity. The consciousness, the heart can mature. Mature means it sees what is true value in life, what is precious, and to give it priority and to appreciate by giving it time and giving it attention. And
Yeah, I love how you.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish. Sorry.
You do. I'm finished.